Hi friends, it's Deanna here today, and today I'm super excited to bring you this video. Today we are making jeans. These are the Hedy Pants but Copper Creek patterns, also formerly known as DB Club or Do It Yourself Club. These are wide leg, full button, zipper, pocket, yoke working pattern. I love the fit of these pants. They literally fit so good. But I'm going to tell you, so usually I do free patterns, and I know that's what we usually do on this channel. And people have been asking me to do jeans because jeans can be so intimidating. And I was like, yeah, I want to do jeans, but I was afraid to take on a free pattern. I couldn't find one that I really liked. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to try a tried and true pattern. And so I got these pants. I got these pants, and I'm going to tell you, there are so much. There's a wealth of information, even just when you get into the pattern. There's tons of information about how to get your perfect fit, how to measure, how to do. I mean, it is detailed. Now, I'm just going to tell you that I am a lazy girly, and all I did is I just did my size. Now, I would say if you fit into different sizes, I would definitely grade. But for me, I was pretty dead set on a size 10. So that's the size that I decided to cut out and make. And I am telling you that these fit so nicely. It fits everywhere that I want them to fit. They're fitted enough at the top. When I have wide leg pants, I don't want them to be so big up here that they look like I'm wearing, my husband's pants, but I also want them to widen at the leg, and this was the perfect fit. So we're gonna go ahead and sew them together. I'm gonna take you step by step. If you're scared about it, you can go ahead and just check out the whole video. If you're making a different pair of pants and you're like, well, I don't really need every step of this video, just check out the steps that you need, because we have the pattern, the pocket construction, we also have the zipper construction, and then we have the assembly of the pattern, and then we have the waistband construction. So if you are making a different pattern, this will also be helpful, because usually when you're constructing jeans, they're all constructed the same way. Some patterns might be a little bit different in the way that they do construction, but I really did enjoy the construction of this pants, and it was very straightforward and easy going. So let's get started. The really cool thing about this pattern that is not only lets you print at home or send an AO file, it also has a projector file, which is how I cut up my pattern pieces, by using my projector. So when you do that, I wanted to make sure that I marked all my pieces. If I had cut out the paper pattern, I would be putting the paper pattern pieces together, so that way I know exactly what each piece is. And that way things don't get confusing when I'm reading the instructions and trying to put it all together. So we're gonna get started. I've got all my pieces cut out and my interfacing cut out and ready to go. And they're all labeled. And we're gonna start with the slat pockets. We're gonna do pockets, my slant pockets. The first thing I did is I grabbed my pocket barrier, which are these little pieces here. And I went ahead and finished off the rounded bottom edge like it shows here. And I did that on my serger, but you can do that either on your serger or on your sewing machine. It really is up to you, with a zigzag stitch or something like that. You just want to make sure that they're finished. I'm going to place my barrier, my pocket barrier, right on top of my pocket the backing. And I'm just meeting it here at the top corner. And so obviously they're opposite sides because they're opposite pockets. Here's the little corner edge where that's going to be attached to the pant. Here's the other side that's going to be attached here. So you want this to be flushed here with your pocket. And we're going to go ahead, pocket backing, and we're going to go ahead and sew this up, top stitch it here onto your pocket backing. We're going to take this one step at a time. This is my first time sewing this pattern, but I'm super excited. Wide leg pants right now are like really in, and it's really my style. So I was really excited about it. The fabric I got from Cali Fabrics, and I had ordered it a while ago, and so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna try to see if I have enough. I had just enough. I wanted to make the pant version, and then I realized I didn't really add any length for my height, which I usually do add length to my pants. but I'm hoping that it's going to be long enough, and if they are short, I might go ahead and just make them into capri style jeans, but I'm gonna try to go for the long length. We'll see. So I've got, I'm gonna go ahead and top stitch here along that edge with a straight stitch on my sewing machine. All right, so my pocket barrier and my pocket backing are together. I can take that tape off. Now I'm gonna grab my pocket lining and I'm gonna place it right sides together. So if you can see here, this little curve here, that's going to match up here with the bottom of our pocket. And we're gonna sew up the bottom curved edge all the way around, right sides together. Now, this is a woven pattern, which means it's a non-stretch fabric. Woven fabrics like this will fray very easily along the edge. So what you want to do is when you're sewing, you're gonna see that when I'm sewing this up, I'm going to be first doing a straight stitch on my sewing machine, and then I'm gonna head over to my serger and finish off the edge with my serger. But you can do that with a sewing zigzag stitch as well in your sewing machine or any kind of way like that. It just needs to be finished because I don't want this to fray out, and a serger stitch is not enough to keep it from fraying. So you wanna make sure that you've got like a reinforcement. Now some sergers will have an extra stitch that locks the stitch. So if you have those fancy kind of sergers, you really only have to go through it once, but I don't. So I'm gonna go through and do a straight stitch, and then I'm gonna go to my serger and finish off the raw edge after. We're actually gonna start here and go all the way around to the top right here to the edge where it ends up. All right, my pocket is put together. So now what we're going to do is we're going to open this up so that we move this pocket area down, and we've only got this pocket curve here. Now this is my front panel for my pant, and I did mark my curve here. I didn't cut it out, which you'll need to, but I hadn't yet because I wasn't sure if I wanted to do pockets or not, but of course, you know, I wanted pockets. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna line it up with my markings because I did mark my pant. And my pocket bag is going to match up with my front pant panel. And then I'm gonna go to my sewing machine and I'm gonna sew this up. First I'm gonna do just a regular stitch here. And then with my serger, I'm gonna come in and serge it to finish that edge there. And if I wanna go ahead and cut it out first, you can. I don't know where my scissors are. Or I can just trim it as I'm sewing it with my serger. It could be fine. All right, and we're sewing this up with a 5/8 seam allowance. All right, now I went ahead and serged that edge. I sewed it and then serged it. But really what you're supposed to do is to trim it and then cut along the curve to make sure that it does a good curve. But I think mine does a good enough curve, and I just like to have the finished, even though that's gonna be on the inside of the garment, so you don't have to worry as much about the fraying. I just like to have it serged anyway. We're gonna pull the pocket away from the pant, like so. We're gonna give it a good steam, and making sure that this seam allowance is going towards the pocket right here. Press that seam allowance towards the pocket. And then we're gonna understitch. So we're gonna top stitch this down, because that way when you turn it around and you've got this pocket, with this ends up being your pocket here. Let me turn it like this. You wanna have that understitch there so that your lining doesn't start kind of wanting to poke out like this. Like, you don't want that poking out, unless you do want it poking out, but usually you don't want that poking out, like coming out like that. Kind of would be cute poking out because it'd be like a little accent, but I wouldn't always want that accent. And if you wanted to, you can top stitch it with your, what is it called? Your lining kind of sticking out. I think that would be really cute. But no, we're not doing that today. So we want to go ahead and understitch. So top stitch the lining. Whoops. this way. Top stitch that lining to your pocket. That way it will not roll out. We're gonna do that to both. Just the seam allowance. That's all we're top stitching, just that seam allowance. Now we can go ahead and seam that flat right here. Now that that's top stitched here, it will keep it from turning. This is what it looks like on this side right here. So beautiful. So now once that's done, we can push this down and we can go ahead and top stitch right here. And you can do that with whatever top stitching thread you want to do. If you want it to be like a brown top stitching thread, so it'll look like, you know, your jeans that you have your ready to wear jeans. So you're gonna top stitch it down to top stitch this here. All right, I'm using my cover stitch for this part, and make sure that your pocket, your bag and everything is pulled out of the way, so you're only top stitching this one section here. And again, I'm using my cover stitch for this, and I'm a little nervous because I'm using a top stitching color, so I don't want it to be crooked. So that's what it looks like. I guess I could have gone a little bit farther down, but that's good. And we're gonna do the other one. All right, look at how pretty that looks. On the back side, we've got our pocket bag sitting here, so we want to make sure it's all nice and flushed. What we're going to do is we're going to go over to our sewing machine and just baste these pieces down along the top and over, which I'll just do is a long straight stitch on my sewing machine, and that will make it easier for when we're sewing this together. We don't want it to come apart on us. So we're just gonna baste this all down to the pant. Long straight stitch, baste it right to the pant. All right, if your thread continuously break, that means that you got a bad spool, and you might as well just get rid of it and use a different spool, because it's just gonna keep doing it over and over again. Sometimes they get old, or you just have a bad spool, and sometimes, you know, you get frustrated and you're like, why is it breaking? And it literally is just bad thread. So just try a different one. Time to get started on our zipper, and one of the first things to do, really important, is to lay out your pant legs like so and mark your right and left. Now, as you can see, obviously this is my left, but if you are to wear it, this side will end up on the right side. So that can be a little confusing when you're reading the instructions and everything. So the easiest thing to do is to go ahead and mark it. That way you don't even have to think about it. It says right, you know, oh, right. I know this one is the right pant leg. So you want to make sure that you've got that. And once you have that, we can move on. Okay, and so we're going to do a few things here to prep our zipper area, to put in our zipper. I've got my zipper here ready to go. I've got my fly extender and my interfacing, my fly guard. I got some interfacing for that. And I cut a little bit of interfacing here for my pant leg. My right pant leg is 5/8 wide, and it's gonna go on the back of this little extension here, this little area. Now on the left pant leg, we're gonna be cutting that off, that extra off, and you're cutting 5/8 off. And I do have a seam gauge, but I don't have it with me right now, so we're just gonna use that and cut it 5/8. There we go. Don't worry about this line, is just where my pocket is basted, so that doesn't have anything to do with my line over here. So then I'm gonna go ahead and attach the interfacing here to the back of the pant. I'm going to attach the interfacing to the fly guard and extension. I feel like I didn't do this one correctly. I might remove this basting stitch and redo this, because I want it to be flushed. I don't want it to get, see how this one is kind of like not flushed? It's giving me this like little knot here. I don't want to have that knot on my pant. So after I attach this interfacing, I'm going to rebaste this piece so it's nice and flush. And I'll check my other pant and make sure too. It could have gotten out of line when I was sewing it up. This pocket side will get sewn in when we are doing this fly here. So that will come in later. This fly guard, we're gonna grab it and fold it wrong sides together. And we're gonna go over to our sewing machine and sew the bottom and the side. The side and the bottom, we're gonna serge that. Finish off the edges. We're also going to finish off this side of the fly guard all the way down. I'm just gonna put a clip here so I can remember which side is the side with the curve. We're gonna finish that whole side off. While we're there, we're also going to grab our pant and we're gonna finish here at the front, around and around, and then all the way around the front on the left leg. So finish it off with a sewing machine or your serger, either one. This one looks flush and nice, so it is good. This one's a little bit scary. Oh, I'm gonna go top stitch this first. Okay, I didn't top stitch, I mean basted, so I basted that. This one's a little bit scary because it's got this little lip here. We don't want to cut that off. We're just finishing the outer edge. All right, so that's going to be really quickly here. Move the pant out of the way. So you're not actually cutting the pant. And then we're going to go around. Move that pant side out of the way. Let's go this way. It might be easier to do on your sewing machine if you're not very comfortable with your serger here on this section. I might go over to my sewing machine and just zigzag stitch this together here where there's like a little gap, just so it's finished there as well. And that way I can trim this extra serger tail here. So I'm gonna trim that, and then I'm gonna go with a zigzag stitch here in the corner so it's not gonna fray. All right, that is sewn right there and right here and all the pieces. We're gonna go ahead and put this to the side. We're gonna grab our fly guard and we're gonna grab our zipper. Open this up and place our zipper right along this edge of the fly guard, and you're gonna see that you're gonna want to have from the edge of the zipper to the outer edge, you need 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches, okay? And we're gonna go and sew the zipper on right here with a zipper foot. And measure again. 1.5 inches. So that's what you want. You want it to be 1.5 inches from the outer edge of the zipper out to the end. So let's top stitch that in. All right, we're gonna grab our right pant leg and we're gonna grab this outer edge here that's hanging out, the 5/8, and we're gonna fold it over, and it's gonna come right over your pocket. And then we're gonna grab our zipper and we're gonna position it right next to that zipper tape. Like the zipper teeth are gonna come right next to that pant leg. And then we're gonna go ahead and top stitch 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. All right, let's go top stitch that down. All right, so that is top stitch there, and my pocket is caught underneath there, so that's all good. Let's put that aside. We're gonna grab the left pant and our fly guard here, and we're gonna place it right sides together here at the left leg, this little edge here. And we're gonna sew that on with a 5/8 seam allowance. You know what else I noticed? That when I push my pocket flush, it has got a little ripple here. So I am also going to top stitch. I did not do a good job top stitching this down. You want it to be flat. I don't want it to, once I attach it, to be like poking out and my pocket not be flat. So I'd rather go ahead and take care of that now than later when I'm sewing it on and it's not laying flat. So make sure it's laying nice and flat. You just quickly fix this with a basting stitch. I'm not even changing my foot because I'm just basting it right there. No need to even worry about it. Go back to a regular stitch now. And again, I'm not changing my foot because it really is just, I'm just stitching this down. All right, now that that's stitched done, we're gonna trim this seam allowance here of the fly guard. Then we're gonna pull the fly guard over, steam it over, and we're going to top stitch this seam allowance down. So we're top stitching this to the seam allowance. I'll go ahead and change the foot for now because I don't think the zipper's, well, the zipper's not in this pant leg yet, and it's easy. I just keep it handy here for the other steps, but we're just top stitching that down, that seam allowance. But I'm gonna go from this angle, that way I can keep it nice and straight on this side. So it's top stitch down, top stitching this seam allowance down here. All right, that's been top stitched there. Now we're gonna grab this fly and we're gonna turn it over and steam it to create a crease here. All right, now we're gonna open it back up. We're gonna grab our right and left pant legs and we're gonna place them right sides together because we're gonna sew this curve. You gotta make sure that all the notches that you marked are marking. And then we're gonna go up to that, there's a notch here that you have on your pattern. It is called the stop stitch at the, it's called the drill hole. And it's like, it's right here. You should have marked it on your pattern. I marked it, but I don't see it. So I may go back and look at my pattern and make sure that I mark it. Where did I mark it? I had marked it with my pen. Anyway, because we're gonna sew here around this curve, stopping here at the drill point mark right here. That's right here. But you gotta make sure everything is lined up. It's very important. All right, now we're gonna sew up the zipper closed, and we're gonna want this extender here to be hiding the zipper, like so. And on the next step, we're gonna be sewing this zipper side to the extender. So what I wanna do is I'm gonna place it here so that it's covering it, right? And I'm gonna pin it on this side. Just kind of pin it one place, two places. Just so I know that it's where it's supposed to be. Then I'm gonna flip it over to the wrong side. I'm gonna move my extender, my fly out of the way. And here's my extender. So this right here is what I'm gonna sew. I'm gonna sew the zipper tape, the other side. One side is sewn to the fly here, and the other side is gonna get sewn to the extender, and we're gonna pin it. And we're gonna sew that with a zipper foot here. Now, if you wanna make sure before you sew it, you can turn it around and remove these pins here. That was just for me to be able to hold it tight and make sure that this is gonna be covering and everything is straight here. Your zipper will be covered by this, you know, and you see that that's gonna get sewn down right there. That's gonna be your zipper. Remember that you're only sewing it to this extender right here. You're not sewing it to the guard. Make that out of the way. All right, there it is. My zipper is sewn on. So cool. It's coming along. All right, we're gonna turn that around again.
make sure this guard, zipper fly guard is out of the way. I'm just gonna pin it out of the way because I was supposed to pin it out of the way last time. I was just very careful not to sew on it. Okay, now we're going to attach this zipper extension to the pant, the left pant leg. So what I can do is, sometimes what I do is I just put my pins on this side so I can mark it. Or you can go ahead and do a basting stitch. Sometimes I do that. I do a basting stitch on this side so I can see it from the other side, and then I sew it from the other side because I want it to be even. And we're gonna stop before we get to the guard here. We don't want to go we don't want to attach this one. We're just gonna attach that. So here from this side, what we're doing is we're going to go down, top stitch down, and stop here. Now be careful because you have your metal zipper there and it might break a needle or something. You want to be careful with that. Be careful with it. It's extremely dangerous if you know where that's from. I'm going to use this marking pen, and see here, I see the end of my fly guard here. So I'm just kind of mark it. Kind of following my pins that I clipped so that I know exactly where I'm going. And I make sure that it's nice and even. Then I can just move the pins because it's kind of nicer to have the pins on the front. That way I don't have to worry about when I'm removing them or running over them with my machine or whatever. Because I'm going to be sewing from the top because I want to top stitch it. I'm going to be sewing that top stitching line. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Make sure it's still pinned in place. Oh, there's one more. And we're stopping here. Okay, so let's go do that. All right, we're basically done, and I feel like it went kind of wide here at the bottom. So I may go back and narrow that down a little bit, kind of go in a little bit more here because it's bigger here than there. It's no big deal, but it kind of bothers me. But here it is. Our zipper is basically done. Looks good. All right, so what I want to do now is I'm going to turn it and lay everything flat. Everything looks good. And you can start trimming some of this threads everywhere so it doesn't look so messy. Your pocket should have cut here, so everything should be good. And what we want to do is, once this is folded back over, we can go ahead and continue stitching all the way to catch that fly guard here. And we can do a back stitch here, and right here at the corner we're going to go a bar tag, which is just a small zigzag stitch back and forth here. So, and then we'll be done with this. So I'm going to go do those things, but first I'm going to come in a little bit here just because just for looks. So I'm just going to pin this closed so that my guard and my fly guard is over, and redo this a little bit. Then I can pick those stitches later. I'm going to close this up right here with just like a stitch back and forth here to close that gap, and then a bar tack here. And then we'll be done with our zipper. Not that hard, huh? A few steps, but it's pretty easy once you just take it one step at a time. That's where I want to do the bar tack. So I'm going to go move that fly guard again. I had moved it out of the way to do that top stitching there. So move it out of the way, and I'm going to do the bar tack here now that it's back down. Change my stitch to a zigzag, and we're going to make it small. Well, maybe a little bit wider than that. All right, there it is. And then I'm going to just change my stitch back to what it was. And we're going to finish this up. And you're going to be very careful because this is where the zipper, metal zipper is. So we don't want to break a needle and have it pop in our face. I'm going back and forth right here. So there it is, tacked down there and here. All right, friends, now that we've finished our front area of our pants, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our yoke. Now, you ask, why are we doing a yoke? Yokes help you have a better shape at the back of your pant. So that's the reason why we do it. The first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and finish all the edges of my yoke. I'm just gonna go with my serger and just finish them all out, just around. You may not have to have them all finished, but it's just nicer for them to just be finished. And then I'm gonna also grab my pant and finish all the edges of my pants, because that way when I sew them, the edges are already finished off and they're not gonna start fraying. So I'm gonna finish just all the way around all the pant legs. I'm gonna do that for the front, and I'm actually gonna do that for the back, from the front and back, because I want them to be finished. As I'm doing that, I'm gonna open my seam allowance here on the rise, and then just like finish off with my serger all the way around the whole thing. And that will just give me a clean little starting point when I'm going to sew it all together and you don't have like frays everywhere. All right, we're gonna start with the back yoke. And now that all my edges and everything have been finished off with my serger, we're gonna start by grabbing that back yoke and placing it right sides together with the back. Now, as you can see how this is kind of curved here, that's the part that's gonna go, the longer part is gonna go on the pant, and then the widest part of the yoke is gonna go on the inside. So where your seam is, where your crotch line is, that's where it's gonna go, and we're gonna match it up. So you're kind of turning it as you go to match it all the way up to the edge, and we're gonna sew with a 5/8 seam allowance. As usual, I keep breaking clips. I think I break at least one clip on every project. Oh well, let's sew. All right, now we're going to steam that seam up or down. It really depends on what look you're going for. If you want the seam of the yoke to be up or down, because you're going to be top stitching it here. So if you want to top stitch on the top of the yoke, or if you want to top stitch on the bottom of the yoke. I'm going to top stitch on the top. So I'm steaming my seam allowance towards the yoke. Then I'm gonna go over to my sewing machine and top stitch, do a top stitching line here. I need to use a stretch stitch for this part, so I'm gonna use a triple stitch to top stitch that part. All right, now that that's top stitch, we're gonna grab our crotch seam area here. We're gonna match it right sides together, and we're going to sew. Ah, broke another clip. Too strong. And those are cheap clips anyway. All right, now I'm gonna steam that seam towards one side, and we're going to top stitch it. Now you could steam it open, but it's nice to have that top stitching on the outside. So if you steam it to one side and top stitch it, that's a really nice, better look than just, you could just steam it open and not top stitch. It's up to you. But that top stitch just adds extra to your pants, you know, look more ready to wear. All right, now comes the fun part, which is grabbing I laid my back pieces down, and then I'm gonna grab my front pant right on top of it, and we're gonna sew the inside seam. To do that, I'm gonna match up here the crotch seam, match that up, and then I'm gonna sew with a 5/8 seam allowance with a nice short length stitch, not super long. You want it to have some hold, and it's gonna be a 5/8 seam allowance. I think I already said that. And then I'm going to steam my seam towards the back and top stitch. The top stitching, not only does it look very nice, especially on jeans, but it also reinforces the fabric, so it's not gonna split open on you. You wanna make sure, because we're pretty rough on jeans, and you wanna make sure that they're gonna stay nice and sturdy and not come apart. So I'm gonna go ahead and do all that. All right, we're steaming that seam towards the back, and then we're gonna top stitch. All right, now we're gonna go ahead and sew out our outer seams. So we're gonna face them right sides together, and we're gonna make sure that your pockets are cut here, and we're going all the way down on both sides, sewing them up. All right, so I'm so excited about how these are turning out. I tried them on and they're fitting so great. You may want to try them on and make sure that they're actually fitting correctly at the hip and everything's looking good. Only thing I'm a little worried about is, remember in the beginning I said I forgot to add length. Well, they are fitting pretty perfectly at the length that I would want them to fit. So I'm gonna have to do like a very, very narrow hem. Though with jeans, usually you do a bigger hem. We're just gonna have to do a narrow hem with mine because I want them to fit. But everything else is looking really good and I'm super excited. Now, I'm going to go ahead and top stitch here at the side, all the way like down the hip. So I'm kind of just going across where the crotch is and I'm gonna stop there. And I'm just like marking it so that way I know, and do the same on both sides. So I'm just going to my sewing machine and just top stitching. It's gonna be a little bit difficult because obviously it's an inside seam, but it's okay because we don't have to go all the way down. We're just going to this spot here. And I'm gonna move my seam allowance towards the back. So I'm top stitching on the back side, or I don't know. It's up to you really. If you want to do it on the front side or the back side. You know what? I'm gonna go look at a pair of jeans and see what my jeans look like and go from there. Alrighty, now it's time to work on our waistband. And the first thing I'm gonna do is attach my interfacing to the wrong side of one of my sets of waistbands. So my my right belt and my left belt, and then the back belt. All right, and then I'm gonna go ahead and start attaching. So this will be my lining, and then I'll have my outer. And what you wanna do is you wanna make sure that once you sew them up, they match up. So you want these sides to be reflecting against each other. So now once I open this, because they're gonna be like opposite of each other, you should have the short pieces together and then the longer pieces together, which are the right belt. The right belt are longer. If you were to put them together, see how the left belt is shorter and the right belt is longer? So they're opposite to each other. So now they fit here correctly because this is gonna come this way. That's gonna become our waistband. So the lining and the outer need to make sure that they match. So they're basically opposite from each other. When you put them like this, okay, you'll have the short and then the long. See that? So it's like opposite. Just make sure that once you sew it or once you pin it, you fit it right sides together, and you've got the short, both short left ones on one side and both long ones. No, these are the short, both short left ones on one side and both long right ones on the other. I hope that makes sense. Now we're gonna go ahead and sew these together here at those seams. All right, we're gonna open the seam allowance up. And the one that's gonna be your lining, which is gonna be this one for me, we're gonna fold a 1/2 inch seam allowance at the bottom. Just a memory crease, 1/2 inch memory crease. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and grab my band, my waistbands, and I'm gonna match them up here at the top, and I'm gonna sew them together with a 5/8 seam allowance here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and trim our seam allowance to a 1/4 inch. You know, I need to look this up. A lot of woven patterns do this, where you sew your seam and then you trim your seam allowance. And I always wondered why. If you know why that is, comment and let me know below. what is the reason for sewing a higher seam allowance and then trimming it down instead of just going with the small seam allowance to begin with? There's got to be a reason. Now we're going to open up that seam and press it towards the lining.
To figure out which one's the right one, make sure to just put it over the waist of your jeans and make sure that the one that is that they're gonna fit correctly. So you want the outer to fit around the waistband, so you've got the longer side on the one side of the pants and the shorter side on the other side of the pants. So you will see that later as I sew it up, but just a quick reminder.
And then I'm gonna go and top stitch my seam allowance to my lining area. So you're not gonna be able to see it on this side, but you're gonna under stitch. So we're stitching the lining to the seam allowance to the lining. It's called under stitching. All right, now we're turning our belt wrong sides together, I'm sorry. And you want to steam here, making sure that the lining is not showing through. You want the lining to be caught behind the outer. See my lining and my top stitching? You can see my top stitching because I used a different color thread right there. But it should not be poking out at all. Now we're going to grab our pants and we're going to line up our outer to our pant. And you got to match up all your notches. Make sure everything's matching up nicely. And at the front, you should hang out 5/8 on each side. So this is the wrong side. So we're going to go, that's my lining. My outer, this is my outer here. I was attaching my lining. That's why I was like, wait a minute. Here we go.
This is how you need to make sure first and decide which one is your outer and which one's your liner. That way you can do that memory crease and that top stitching on the correct spot, not like I did here on the wrong spot. So, yay.
5/8 seam allowance hanging out here. And you know what I did? Which is fine, whatever, I just have to redo it. I steamed a 1/2 inch seam allowance on my outer, not on my lining. So I'll have to redo that. All right, so here you're hanging out 5/8 and here I'm hanging out 5/8. So you're hanging out 5/8 on both sides of the pants. I'm gonna go sew that up and I'm gonna have to steam this here because I steamed the wrong edge. I steamed the right side. The outer, not the lining, and that's okay. So I'm gonna have to steam that up, and that's fine. All right, now we're gonna flip that open and steam it open here at the waist. I'm gonna go ahead and clip some of these threads that are just hanging out and steam that up towards the top. Ooh, basting stitch, no need to be here anymore, so I can remove that. Okay, and I want to make sure that I steam my 1/2 inch seam allowance here at the top that I had steamed at the bottom by accident. All right, now what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold this belt over itself because we wanna sew this up right here. And we're gonna sew just this raw edge here, right sides together to close this up. Do the same on both sides. Keep this folded edge here folded because that's going to, because that's gonna be on the other side. It's gonna get turned around. Okay, so make sure that folded edge is folded still, and we're gonna stitch this down on both sides. You have that 5/8 seam allowance here, so you're doing 5/8 seam allowance on the stitch down. All right, now here, we're gonna clip down that seam allowance to 1/4 inch. And we're gonna clip down this corner without actually trimming the thread. We wanna make sure we're not cutting the thread, we're just cutting the fabric to release some of the bulk. And then now we're gonna flip this over. I'm gonna use like a pen or something to poke out those tops. All right, and now we're going to steam it. And I want to trim all these threads that are hanging everywhere. You don't need them. Just from like top stitching and from basting. You can pull all those basting stitches out and tuck this in here. And we're gonna be top stitching, so I'm going to go ahead and pin the waistband down, and we're gonna top stitch it from the other side. And you're covering this whole seam with that waistband. All right, we're gonna go top stitch. Then after we top stitch, we'll literally just need a button here. Buttons, which there's 2 buttons, but I think I might just do one. I don't know, one bigger one, I'm not sure. The waistband is tall enough to do 2 buttons, and then hem, and we'll be done. All right, at the same time I'm gonna top stitch that, I'm gonna work on the bell loops by folding them wrong side together first, and then I'm gonna fold the 2 edges in. Then I'm gonna fold it over again to create your loop. I mean your belt loop. And then I'm gonna go, at the same time that I'm top stitching my pants, I'm also gonna go ahead and top stitch my belt loop. I'm gonna do my belt loop probably on my, well, I'll do it on my sewing machine, and you'll need two stitches, one on each side of the belt loop. Now my belt loop is a little bit longer than what's on the thing. I just cut it long, but we're gonna trim it to have enough loops to fit, and we'll attach that in a minute. I forgot about the belt loops until the end. Oops. All right, now we're gonna grab our belt loop thingies, and we're gonna cut out all the loops. 1, 2, 3, there's 6 of them, I think. And you have markings on your belt loop pattern piece, but I don't have my belt loop pattern piece because I cut with the projector and I didn't make one, so that's what we've got. And what we're going to do is where the markings are, which I'm gonna have to go look, we're gonna grab our belt loops and we're gonna fold them the top and the bottom, and we're going to top stitch them down. So like, this is where my first belt loop goes, and I'm gonna go top stitch it down. And then fold this in again and top stitch the other side. And then we're gonna do that for all of them. So there's one, my other one. I gotta look at the piece to show me where they go. My clips are having a hard time with these, so I'm just gonna pin them like that and then fold them once I get over to my sewing machine. And hopefully my sewing machine won't have a hard time, because if not, I'm gonna be hand stitching these things on, and thimble would come really easy for that. Okay, now, as you all know, if you're following me on Instagram, I am in my recycling era. I am trying to recycle as much as I can out of my stash. And I've got all these buttons I've had given to me. My grandmother-in-law had been collecting all these buttons, I think just off of like pants and stuff that she had, and tops and whatnot. So they're just all buttons, and I was trying to figure out if I had enough if I had any that were double or any that would match. I love this one, but those don't match. So I'm like wondering if I should keep them matching or if it doesn't matter, because some of them match, like this stars one match, but they're not my favorite. Also, I saw a couple more. Oh, these ones match, but they're really bright. So I think that's a no. I don't like those. I love this one, but I don't have a matching one. Don't really like those very much. Too bright. Got the pearl, but it's too much. I don't think I want it. I loved these ones. This one right here is a smiley face. I wish I had another smiley face. I don't. I have this one, but I don't know. I'm kind of narrowing them down. That one's too big, and I don't have a matching one, and it's kind of bright. I thought I had found too much. Oh, yes, I did. Okay, I love these ones. All right, I'm going with those. They're not jean denim buttons per se, but I think they will do. So I'm gonna use these, and those are the buttonholes I'm gonna create right here to match these buttons. So I'm gonna do 2 buttonholes here, and then I'll attach the buttons back here so that they'll fit into the buttonholes, and that'll be done. You wanna have the button that you're gonna use for your buttonhole, because you want it to be the size of the button. My hands are all stained by my jeans. And then for the hem, when I told you I tried these on, I tried them on and they were like just the right length for me, because I forgot to add that inch of length. So there's a couple of options that I could do. I can just go ahead. What I'm gonna do first is I'm just gonna go with a really small hem and see what that looks like. Or I can do what you do on the capri version, which is to add, you sew on like a cuff, essentially fold over cuff. I think I do have a little bit of fabric left, maybe not even enough, that maybe I could like fold it over and add, or even just with my lining, I could sew on the lining and fold it and to add more length at the inside if I wanted it. If I thought that this small hem is too tiny, I could add another fabric. Let me see. I don't know that I have anything handy to show you. All right, I have this lining piece of fabric here. So what I mean by that is to grab the fabric and sew it on like to the pant here, to the end, right sides together. And then I would fold that in. So I would have essentially like this would be the rest of my cuff, and then I would top stitch up here. So that way it would be wider. But I'm gonna start with just doing a small hem. Then I'm gonna top stitch here, just a small hem, and see what that looks like. I think it'll be fine. So that's what I'm gonna do. So let me do all those things and we'll be done, and I'll be able to try on these jeans. I'm so excited about them. Like I said, I wanna do a lighter pair because those are really trending, the wide leg light jeans. So I'm excited about that. And also another thing that I kind of was thinking is about making the pant go a little bit higher so it's more high-waisted. But when I tried it on, it wasn't too low. And now that I have the waistband, it might be a little bit higher. So I think it's gonna work out just fine. So let's do all that and we'll be done. These are looking so good. I'm so excited.
Time for buttons, and I really do wish that I would have done my buttonholes first before I attached this belt loop right here, because it kind of got in the way when I was doing this. Also, my audio on my camera went out, so I am doing a voiceover on this part because I lost all the audio. And here I am talking. Let me fast forward. All right, now I'm grabbing my foot, my buttonhole foot, and I am putting my button at the back so that it can show me, it can create the right size buttonhole that I need. So I'm changing my foot. Now with the buttonhole, there's this little lever at the back that you pull down on your sewing machine, and then it gets stuck between the back and the front. There's like a little ledge. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull that down in a minute here. I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm just like putting stuff down, getting stuff ready. Yeah, so I pull that little lever down there, and it kind of goes between the 2 little notches, and it keeps my buttonhole as long as I need it. All right, I went ahead and switched my stitch to a buttonhole stitch, and I'm actually using some whatever fabric to create a buttonhole and make sure that it's going to work correctly and everything is looking good, because I am so scared of buttons. Don't tell anybody, but they are a little bit scary. So I like to do just like a trial version and make sure it all turns out correctly. And it actually did turn out really good. So I was really excited about it and was excited to go ahead and do the buttons on my pants. Okay, so I grabbed that and tried to figure out if I wanted the buttons to go up and down or sideways, and up and down. I just don't love the look of up and down buttons holes. So I decided to go sideways like the regular pants usually do. I was still a little scared, so I trimmed down that button just to make sure, that buttonhole that I created earlier, the tester trial, just to make sure I knew exactly where I was going to put my buttons, my buttonholes. So I went ahead and marked it with my pencil, and that way I knew exactly where to start sewing.
Let me show you how I open up my buttonholes. I put a pin right here at the end of the buttonhole, and then I grab my seam ripper and go at the beginning of the buttonhole and just slowly rip, and then the pin makes me stop here, and then my buttonhole is ready. And then I'm gonna go ahead and sew my other button on, my 2 buttons on, and we'll be done, and then I can show you what this looks like. To make sure that I get my buttons in the correct spot, I'm just gonna go right here on my buttonhole and mark where my button is supposed to go. So I've got this mark here, and that's where I'm going to attach my buttons, so that way they fit perfectly. And I'm just gonna hand stitch them on.
All right, friends, we are finished. Comment below and let me know what you think. Did you enjoy this tutorial? Do you love these jeans? Are you gonna go get them? The information for this pattern is below on the information box. Make sure you go grab them. And yeah, I love how they turned out. I think that they are super, super cute. Let me see, the rise is pretty good. I mean, it comes like about to my belly button, which is where I usually like to wear my pants. I was a little worried when I first tried them on without the waistband, and I was like, oh, these are gonna be kind of low rise, but they're not, because the waistband is a wider waistband, so they fit really, really nice. I have my belt loops, my pockets, my zipper, which is great, and I just think they're super cute. I plan on making these in a light wash denim. I think that they will be amazing in a light wash denim, because of the fact that that's so in right now, and just the fit would be like really, really cool for that. So if you make these patterns, this pattern, please find me on Instagram and share it with me. I'd love to see it. If you want to see more behind the scenes, make sure that you're following me on Instagram. Make sure that you go follow Copper Creek Patterns. Go get your pattern, and come back and let me know how you like them and if you made them. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you all next time.